Well, as humans, we are not perfect. How often do we make good resolutions regarding, for example, our health, and life gets in the way? And then we beat ourselves up and think, there we are, it's the end. You see, I can't do it. So, what do we need in those cases? It's what Cara-Michele calls here the bounce back ability, right? So today we have Cara-Michele Nether back with us again for episode 3 of our 6 series. She's a licensed acupuncturist, a functional nutrition counselor, a certified personal trainer, and the author of Fuel Your Engines. And this is, as I was saying, part of our self-care consistency series, because we all know about self-care, but it's the consistency which really gives the results, right? So before we get back into this, why this bounce back ability is so crucial for building confidence and for rapidly restarting our wellness routines, Cara-Michele, could you share just a little bit about who you are and how you got to be doing what you do now?
Hello, Julie. Thanks so much for this opportunity. I'm so excited to be back with you and all the women listening. Look, I've been a health and wellness practitioner for the last 20 years, and I watched my mom, my grandmother, my aunts, and all the other important women in my life, really give everything to taking care of the people and the projects that they really were excited about in life, but they all did it to the detriment of their own health and wellness. They let their own self care slip to the side. To be perfectly honest, I'm not 100% sure that they were even considering the fact that it was important for them to take care of themselves. They just kept giving and giving. And as a result, many of the women in my family, and I'm sure this is the same for many of the audience members, they just ended up either in a lot of pain, back pain, knee pain. They ended up with disease states like heart disease or diabetes, and they just weren't able to have the quality of life that they hoped for, they dreamed for, or they're super excited about as they age. It was just the opposite, actually. They
Right.
ended up having a lot of physical and health issues that limited their vitality that I know they wanted in their older years.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone can recognize that. I mean, I think maybe we've done a little step forward. I mean, before, I guess it is wired into us in a way, right? Okay, the way women are made, we're here to nurture. That's why we have the babies. That's why we have maternal instincts, because it means that we do care about this little thing here. We don't just leave it there on the floor. It's evolution, right? It's for our species to survive. We were given this. But there's that fine line between being there for others but doing it at our detriment really doesn't serve anyone, does it? We end up depleted, then we can certainly not help anyone. And I guess we also want, talking here to the mothers here or the sisters or the aunties, we want to lead by example. Are we saying to our daughters, sisters, etc., your job, you're here to give, whether it's to your children or to the community or to your employer or whatever it is that you're doing, that's what you're here for. You suffer and you suck it up and you do it. No, that's not going to make for a good mother nor a good partner, sister, employee, whatever, right?
Yeah, Julia, it's my mission to help women understand that they can do both at the same time.
Yeah.
I kind of liken it to the women's suffrage movement. Like for hundreds of years, women never thought that it was possible for them to have some say in the trajectory of their lives, in the local government, in the national government, that it was someone else's responsibility to take care of those things. And maybe there was something lacking in us that we
Right.
weren't smart enough or whatever the conversation might have been. But look, at this point, some women stood up and they changed that. So now, 100 years later, like we're all thinking, like,
Yeah,
of
yeah, it
course,
seems
I should
incredible. It
have
seems
say in my
unbelievable.
life.
But however, the
Yeah,
one
and
thing I
so
sometimes think we haven't done is that, okay, we've got all these rights and we can work and we're working towards gender equality and pay and all the rest. But however, somehow, all the stuff which happens in the background, as in the looking after the aging parents or raising the children, etc., is still not so that equal. It's a bit like, fine, of course you can work, of course you've got all this capacity and you contribute to society, and we love women as long as you're also okay. looking after all the rest. And the sad bit as well is that a part of it somehow is ingrained in us. I remember moving to Africa with a baby, and my then husband was busy doing his career and all of that. And I was a bit resentful, right? Because there was suddenly me at home, was a number two and looking after this baby in a very isolated environment. But I remember thinking, the worst thing about it was if anyone had offered me a business trip like he was going on the whole time, I couldn't have done it. I just couldn't have left that little baby alone there in Africa. And that's what actually killed me the most was that it wasn't even anybody else forbidding me, whether it's the ideas that we have about what we should be doing, or whether it is an overblown mother instinct or maternal instinct towards whoever, friends, family, parents. And it
Yeah.
is just reminding ourselves that we matter, that we will not be able to serve if we're lying panting on the floor.
Yeah. Well, so this is the new movement that I'm really pushing to open women's eyes to, is just like the suffrage movement. It took somebody, a couple people to start this new thought pattern, and I am just passionate to help women understand that they can have both, that they can take care of the people that they care about and feel good along the way, that they're not separate things. You don't have to do one and then you get a chance to do the other. And so, we all have choices to make. And to be perfectly honest with you, this story that you told, I get it. We might not be able to do everything that we want to do all at one time,
Right.
right? But the conversation that we're having today is really about how do we partition our lives. Maybe there are different chapters in our lives, but knowing that no matter what chapter we're in, we have to have high levels of mental and physical energy in order to be our best when we're in that chapter of our life, and to feel mentally and physically strong while we're doing the things that allow us to take care of the people that we care about and to have a life that we're excited about.
Perfectly said. That is just so powerful. And I think that says it all. And we're not saying be selfish, tell everybody else, sod off, I'm looking after me now. It should just be a habit, right? And that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about consistency here. And sometimes, okay, sometimes the amounts of things we can do are different. Maybe when we've just had children, we maybe have less time to spend days at the sauna or the spa or whatever it is that self-care means for us. But that doesn't mean that we don't have time to have a nice warm shower, to put some body lotion on, to take a breather, to say to somebody else, can you just, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, look after the child. So right. I mean, that's why I love this, because we're talking about consistency. A lot of us now know, okay, we should be taking care of ourselves. Put your mask on before you can help others, but it's often the consistency. And I love the topic that you chose for today about this bounce back, because even when we do start having this idea, right, this is important, in order to do the rest, I need to have all of this balance, like you've just said, powerfully on all levels. So then we decide to commit.
Mhm.
And then, as you say, life happens. And then it doesn't work out. And we didn't do what we'd promised ourselves we would do. And there's that, like, okay, right? You see, it just doesn't fit into my life. So we're talking about bounce back.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, one of the things that I believe is the number one thing that women have to accept is that they have very busy lives, and that they're running, a lot of times we're running other people's lives, right? A lot of times we're pushing our career forwards. A lot of times we are managing the health concerns, doctor's appointments, medications for older parents, right? There's a lot on our plates. And if that is the truth, we have to know that life can't be one smooth, continuous stroke,
Right.
right? That's what we want. We want to say, oh, I've got everything lined up, and it's just going to continue from there. And when it doesn't, then we think that there's some deficiency in us. And I want to help women understand at the beginning of this conversation that it's not you. It's just the reality of having so many different people in your sphere. If you are only taking care of yourself, you can control a lot of what comes and goes in and out of your life. But you don't. You've got teachers assigning extra homework. You've got teachers assigning field trips. You've got, extracurricular activities. You've got, Parents with the doctors decide when they're having their appointments. The doctors decide that they're going to change their medication. So now you have to go pick up something new, right? You've got your partner or your spouse that are changing their schedules around.
Or
So
even just stuff happens, right? The car
stuff
breaks
just happens.
down, or, somebody
Yeah, you
suddenly
get a
breaks
flat
a leg,
tire.
or, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So there are a lot of different opportunities for life, for your schedule to get off balance,
Right.
right? For things to shift and change. So my goal is to help women understand that that is just the truth.
Right.
There's nothing we can do about that. What we want to be able to do is have the mental and physical energy to roll with it so that we don't let it throw us off, right? And get into a funk about it and have negative conversations about how we're lacking this and we're not keeping up with that and blah, 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 right?
Like
To
we do so
recognize the
well.
truth of it all. And when it comes to this idea of being consistent with our self care, which is my passion, right? It's much better to be consistent with a little bit than to do a lot once a month. We
Right.
just have to get to that mental understanding, right? So consistency is the key here. But how do you be consistent when we have all these things going on, Julie? You just start again. You just start again. And what I want women to understand that is that inside yourself right now, this is not something you have to develop. It's not something you have to go purchase. It's not something you have to research. It's in you right now. You have what I call your bounce back ability. And so I want to talk today about what that is. How do you ignite it? How do you come to rely on it?
Perfect. Let's go for it.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
what is it?
Yeah. So bounce back ability is a memory within your body. When you have started, let's just say, for example, that you are starting a walking regimen. You are walking a few times a week. Maybe you're doing about a mile, let's say. Maybe it's 3 miles, whatever it is that feels good to you. If you have done that for a few days in a row or a few weeks in a row, and then all of a sudden you have to stop because your work is sending you out of town and you have to travel, or the car breaks down and now you're down to one car and you can't get to the park the way that you used to. Whatever the situation is, we've already decided that there's going to be a lot of different reasons why you could get thrown off, right? What I want women to understand is that your body remembers that this is what you were doing on a regular basis. And not only does it remember, but it starts to ask for it again.
Oh,
If you've ever started an exercise routine and it got that going for a little while, a few weeks, a month, and then you took the time off, and then you started to feel a little bit weird because you didn't go and do the walk or the exercise or the class, that's your body saying, hey, aren't we supposed to be blah, blah,
clever.
blah?
Incredible, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. We have this muscle memory. Your muscles, they want to, your body wants to keep going with whatever it is that we're doing. And this can help us on the positive side, more exercise, more nutritious food, whatever it might be, better sleep, but it can also take us on the other side
Right.
too, right?
The
So
bad
if we're
habits
eating,
taking back, and
yeah,
yeah,
if
right.
we're eating a lot of ho-hos or cookies or whatever it might be, the body starts looking for that sugar rush again, right?
Right.
This is just the truth of us. It's already built in. So there's nothing you have to do about it except to just get started with whatever it is that you're trying to do. Get some reps in the beginning. Don't worry that, oh, my situation might change next week. I heard some rumors that there's going to be a new project and I might not, my time has to change and I might not. Don't worry about the future. Just start now. Get some reps in. If you're trying to drink more water, go ahead and start doing that now. When the alteration in your schedule happens, your body will start to remind you, oh, weren't we up to something? Weren't we trying to drink a little bit more water? And as soon as the dust clears, as soon as the newness of the project at work, or you get the car back, and now you have your own vehicle, you can get to the park, or whatever your program is, you just get started again.
Right. Just don't overcomplicate with thinking of 8 million, as you said, negative talk and all of that. Because I mean, you've decided it for a reason, right? You've decided, okay, this is something that I would like to start. So I guess you just need to go back and ask yourself, well, why was that important in the first place?
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, a lot of times we fall into a negative conversation that if we fall off, we think that we have to be 100%. If we fall off the wagon, then we kind of throw our hands up in the air and say, oh, I can't, this is not for me, or this is not the right time, and I just can't, and it's not going to work. And we just quit on ourselves. We don't have to go to any extremes. All we have to do is start again.
Right.
And Julie, the most important part here, when it comes to consistency, the most important thing that we're trying to accomplish is to establish some routine. We're trying to get some momentum going with whatever the practice is that we're focusing on, right? And so starting again just allows us to continue that momentum. It really doesn't matter. You know, somehow it's easy for us to think that one bad meal means that we've blown it all.
The men
That
do
not
that too. I mean, women do that. I mean, women do that, and we have like this negative image, and we then sort of it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. You see, you can never keep up with any. You know, you never go to the end with any of your resolutions or whatsoever, and then we just sort of reinforce it again. So basically, we should just stop talking to ourselves and bloody do it, right? Whatever it was that we wanted to do.
you know, the truth of the matter is that if we were working with someone else, right? If the average woman was talking to a friend, or she's trying to train someone new to take a position that maybe you're moving up and you want to train somebody to take over your job, we would give that person a ton of grace,
We would.
right? We would say, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Just keep trying. You'll get it after a little while." But we won't give that to ourselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so really all we have to do is just acknowledge that life is going to be bumpy.
Yeah.
That's the chapter of life that I'm in now. You know, when we get to the later chapters in life, maybe the kids aren't needing so much and the spouse doesn't need so much and parents are in good care, right? People aren't pulling on us so much. It's much easier to stay more consistent. Kind of like when it was when we were in our 20s and we didn't have so much
Right, right.
responsibilities,
I
right?
guess it all comes back to the why again. Because if your why is powerful enough, because the thing is, I mean, most of us are 50 plus, our children aren't needing that sort of help anymore, right? So it might then already be the grandchildren you're being asked to look after and pick up from after school activities and all the rest, or the parents, or the job, or the system. But I do feel that sometimes some of the women I know and who come to me for various things, they hide a little bit behind all of this, right? It almost seems like there's a gap there.
Yeah.
And they let whatever may turn up in life, the neighbor needs help moving or the whatever. So it's also our choice to sort of say, well, knowing that we all have a certain amount of time, what are my priorities? My priorities towards me, my priorities towards my community, my family. We want, but it's balancing again. It's not just giving 100%, right? To come back to what you've been saying the whole time. It's knowing when you're actually letting yourself down by putting someone else forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, Julia, I have colleagues and friends and clients who are in their 50s and they have 10-year-old children. So a
Oh,
lot of
yeah, no,
women
it's
are
true.
having
That is
children a
true.
little bit later. So I get that. And many women have children that are in college and not needing that day-to-day support. But I'm right with you. Like we've talked before about this idea of clarifying your you and for who. What's the vision that you have for yourself for the later portion of your life? Do you want to be able to get up and climb the mountain or get on the boat and travel and you do your gardening work, play tennis with your friends a few times a
Yeah.
week? Do you want to be able to stay at home and be independent? Or are you just going to leave it to chance?
Right. And I think we owe it to ourselves as well. And again, it's that idea of showing good practices to other people. It's that balance of honoring yourself and loving yourself enough, right? Self-care is self-love, right? It's saying, I
Absolutely.
count too. Okay, right. So we've talked about what it is. And so you had three tips, right? So
I
first
did.
one was reconnect with your why.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I'm with you. The very first thing we have, listen, change is hard to make,
Yeah.
right? And so there's always going to be bumps, there's always going to be roadblocks, there's always, trying to get our minds in the right place, trying to get some momentum with these new things. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know why you need to put yourself through making these changes, the bumps in the road to kind of get this rolling, then we'll never do it. We
Exactly.
have to have a clear vision of what the life I'm trying to create for myself, or the
Right.
life I want to sustain for myself. Maybe you're doing well now with your self care and you want to keep that as you get into your 70s and your 80s and your 90s, right?
Right.
So we really need to understand our why. Why is it important for me to do my meal prep or figure out where I'm going to get my food? Why is it important for me to figure out my stress management skills and practice those so that when I need them in the middle of a difficult conversation or whatever it might be, you get a phone call that someone's ill, there's going to be a lot to handle and put together. We can employ those strategies right away and keep ourselves in a place that we really want to be. And truthfully, in the end, I think that it all boils down to how you feel. That's the only thing that really matters in the end. How do you feel? If you feel mentally strong, if you feel confident and capable, then the things that are showing up in life, they don't rock you as much. You can
Right.
handle them, you
Exactly.
can be with them, right?
Exactly.
So how you feel is really important. Why do I need to feel that way is a useful time. That's useful taking 15 or 20 minutes a
Yeah.
few times to sit down and do some journaling on that and get a clear statement of intention for yourself, for sure. So that's number one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, when I don't have it, because we don't always all wake up every day feeling on top of the world and ready and vibrant for everything, but it's what can I then do in order to get back, like you said, those triggers. So, okay, reconnect with your why and let that help you get outside your comfort zone. That makes so super sense to me. And your second one?
Yeah. So depending on how much time from the last time you did your activity, so we use the example that something comes up and you got to take a work trip or something like that happens, and so your walking routine gets thrown off for a day or two. If it turns out that it's just a day or two, you can just get started back where you left off. If you were walking a mile, you could probably just start again with that mile. But some events, they really can rock our schedule, throw things off for a longer period of time. Let's say it's a week or a week and a half. Maybe you want to then slow it down. So maybe instead of walking that 1 mile, you go to a half a mile when
Mm,
you're ready to get started again. When the dust clears and your schedule, okay, I can get started again. Let's just do a half a mile a little bit. This allows your body to kind of get caught up to where you were before, right?
right.
In this way, if you were walking a mile or 3 miles, if you jump back in after 2 weeks, you could feel really sore.
Yeah.
You could be
Yeah.
really tired
Yeah.
afterwards,
So it's
right?
with love, right? It's with love and with cleverness.
Yeah, exactly. So it's much better to just ease our way back up to that mile and then you just keep going again because what we've done is we've maintained or got rolling again with the consistency. The actual exercise itself will take care of itself. You'll get
Right.
back up to it. But mentally, your body, your mind says, yes, I walk every day.
Right. And I guess also, I'm just thinking of my own personal experience, I think sometimes we also have to be accepting. I've written myself in for this 10K in May and super enthusiastic. I actually love running, but during winter, it's cold and dark. I don't want to go out. But anyway, I'd started again and it was beautiful weather 2 Fridays away. And I totally forgot about myself and ran far too much. And I've actually quite severely pulled a muscle in my glute. And so every Monday and every Thursday, I'd be like, well, you're supposed to go running today. And I'm like, yeah, but it really hurts when I walk. This doesn't make sense to go running today. Yes, I can go running today, but what if I rip this even more? Then there's no way I'm going to make this. So I guess it's also the intelligence of thinking, okay, so what was the why behind the running? And knowing that I need to be gentle with myself and let this glute repair, what else can I do
That's
in
right.
the meantime to fulfill that self-care goal that I have, but which doesn't involve running, jumping, or walking, which is pulling on that hurt glute.
Absolutely. Julie, we're going to throw this one in. Thank you for making mention as a bonus. We're going to throw our bonus in between number two and number three. Bonus tip. Listen, The weather change, you made a couple of really good points, and I'm just going to pull some of the keys out of that, what you just said. You made a couple good points. So, number one here is that, look, our environment changes. And so, if walking or running is your form of movement, and then the time changes, the season changes, instead of it being a very comfortable 75 degrees outside, now it's 20 degrees outside. Can we allow ourselves to shift into something else that allows us to get the same benefit as the walking without it being, oh, there's something wrong with me, the fact that I don't want to go walking or running in the 20-degree weather. Right. So we just want to be able to be flexible with the tactics that are going to move us towards the goals that we're after. If we're trying to build our cardiovascular strength, which running and walking are going to do, then can we do that with some calisthenics inside? Yeah. Do we have an exercise bike or a rowing machine? Can we switch over to that instead until the weather is a little more accommodating? You're feeling excited to be outside again, and then you can get back to walking or running if that feels good to your body. Yeah. The second thing that I heard you say is that we want to, again, give ourselves some grace, right? Remember, the ultimate goal is how you feel. So if we over-exercise, if we push ourselves, if we ignore injury, then we can actually move our goals backwards further, right? Instead of trying to get more physically fit, we can actually injure ourselves, and then it takes longer for us to be able to do the thing that we really want to be able to do, or to get some rhythm with the tactic that we're going to use. So a tactic is a thing that you're going to use to move you towards your goal, right? Right. So saying to ourselves, oh, well, I promised, I dedicated to running every day, but I've got this pull in my glute, but I can't deal with that. I have to just keep going because I have to stay consistent. That's my goal. That's not useful thinking, right?
But it's hard, right? It's hard. I'm frustrated. I'm a bit like, oh, gosh, now the sun's shining. I should be running. And it's a bit saying like, well, things happen. You hadn't planned that you were going to pull it that bad. You have to let it rest. That's the only thing it is. So stop talking about it or thinking about it. You have to just accept it needs time to rest.
Yeah. Look, we are masters. Women are masters at adjusting and juggling lots of different things, new changes, the life shifts, people's needs change that we love and that we're caring for. We do this all the time for others, right? And so we have to be willing to slow down, get clear again, remind ourselves of what we're up to, what it is we're trying to do for ourselves, and be flexible with the truth of where we are, what's happening right now, what is it that I really need, and allow and give ourselves that grace.
Right. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. And the third one?
The third tip is that we want to trust this idea of resilience. So it might even pair with this bonus one. If something happens and you take time off because your glute is hurting, you could say, well, I'm just going to give up on running because I'm just going to totally forget like I did 2 years ago, and I'm not going to get back on it, and it's just going to fall apart, all of that kind of stuff, right? Maybe that's part of the fear, is that we think that we're going to fall off the wagon and we're not going to be able to get going again, and that's why we push ourselves to keep going even though we might have an injury or whatever the circumstances might be. But I want women to start to trust that resilience. That's what that bounce back ability is in ourselves. Your body understands, and it wants to help you do the goal that you stated for yourself. So it will come back. All we have to do is get started. If we can't start at the level where we were when we stopped, don't worry about that. Just get started again, and then slowly build back up to that. And in a few weeks, you're back up to the level where you were. It's no problem, and you're off to the races. The third tip here is to trust yourself. Celebrate the wins. Understand that anything that you're doing that helps you feel mentally and physically better, feel mentally and physically stronger, that's a win. So let's
Right.
count it. Doesn't matter how small it is. Just keep stacking those little wins on top of each other.
Oh, I love this. I love this. And then when I'm listening to all this incredible wisdom you've just shared, to me, it really does come down to trust your body, stop thinking, stop overthinking, over analyzing, dissecting everything. And it's again just almost the Nike, what is it? They just say, you've
Absolutely.
decided this is important because it's how you feel. That's why I love that you keep saying is we mustn't get lost in all these little details of all these,
Yeah.
things.
Women had, look, most women that I work with, they've done enough research.
Yeah.
They've watched enough of the videos. They've watched enough of this. They've got enough of the self-help books. All you need to do is start. Get going. Pick something, whatever it is that you believe is going to move you forward in terms of building mental and physical energy. If it's exercising 5 minutes, let's go. If it's drinking more water, let's do it. If it's having an extra salad a week, let's just get started, right?
Right,
We don't
right.
need to analyze it anymore. We need to start at a
Exactly.
level that's easy to continue to do daily or weekly, depending on the practice.
Exactly, because we're also champions at that, aren't we? It's all in, and then we just sort of starve ourselves for a few days, and we're a bit like, okay, well, I'm not doing that anymore. And then the whole package goes out the window again.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you would think that by now, we talk about our 50s, that we would have a little bit more of maturity and seeing the big picture. But I thank you for this, and I thank you that we have a series out of this, because the more we talk about it, the more we repeat it, and because the goal right at the end is to become a habit. Like
yeah,
brushing our teeth, we don't ask ourselves twice a day, do I really want to brush my teeth? Do I have time to brush my teeth? Do I want to brush my teeth? We do it because we know it's the right thing to do.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Before we go, if I could tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
So, for one of my self-care goals for this year is to trim down my body fat. I don't pay much attention to my weight. I don't think that's a great indicator of health, but I do think that there's a body weight that's very beneficial for my health. I have a thyroid concern. I'm 56. I want to be able to have as high a quality of life as I can for the next 30, 40 years. So I'm really after, optimizing my health. So trimming down my body fat has been a big indicator, a big goal for me. So over the last 10 years, I've been a person who intermittent fasts, either doing a 16-8 type of thing, or every once in a while I'll do a 24-hour fast. And I decided last night that I was going to do a 24-hour fast. So I stopped eating around 5 o'clock last night, and I thought I would just go all the way through until 5 o'clock today. Well, about an hour ago, I was trying to get prepared for our conversation today and take care of a few notes. And I noticed that I was really having a hard time focusing.
Right.
My brain just was not able to think, okay, well, what are we going to talk about? And what are we going to do? And let me send this email real quick. I was
Yeah.
struggling. And
Fog.
I knew exactly what it was. For whatever reason, not enough calories, a
Yeah.
lot of exercise over the weekend. I don't know
But it
what the
wasn't good for
reason
you.
was.
Right.
But right then, it was like, I want to be my best. Well, on this podcast today, there's a lot that I want to accomplish today. I've got interacting with some people. I want to be friendly. I want to be funny. I want to be connected with them. And I can't do any of those
Yeah.
things feeling how feeling right now. So I just said, today's not the day.
Right. And it's wisdom, and that's it, right? Today's not the day. Doesn't mean it's over, failed, blah, blah, blah. Today is not the day. I love
Today's
that.
not
I
the
love
day.
that because that is self-care. You have your goal, you know why you want it, it's important to you, you're totally determined to do it. But then there is that flexibility of maybe today is not the day. And we have all these changes as well, and hormones or things that we want to do. And may as well do it on a good day. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
for that.
exactly.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Keep at it, keep at it. Bounce back with joy, with forgiveness, with self love. And we will speak to you again in a few more weeks with part 4, which, if I remember well, is the cellular game, understanding the root of mental and physical
Yeah.
energy.
Julie, before we
Yeah,
go, I just want to say that if there's
yeah.
anyone who is really struggling with their self-care and they want some partnership, I am happy to have a quick conversation twice a month. I have what I call the roundtable, self-care roundtable discussion. It's an opportunity for women to actually vocalize, speak to myself and a small group of women about what's working, what's not working for them. And we spend time workshopping so everybody can leave with a game plan to make things easier for them. The self-care consistency roundtable is linked below. So please, if you need any help, just hop on. I'm happy to talk with him.
But how beautiful. And I totally believe in that. I also believe very much, we haven't talked about that much in this episode, but the need to reach out and to get the help when we want, right? If we need help with a sore tooth, we go and see the dentist. We don't go and, sob and frustrate on our own. The great thing is people are out there around the world who are specialized in this and who will listen and who can help us. And there again, it means no excuses. We can do this, right? We just need to get the help we need. Thank you very much. All the best to all of you. Lots of loving self-care to all of us. And bounce back. Take care.